Everybody, welcome back to the podcast, episode 3. It's so great to be with you all. I am joined once again by podcast regulars Tony Ruiz and Charles Bright. And we have a special guest with us today, Chris Zhang, who we have worked with for some time over at Gold Derby. And I'm pretty sure that I am the person who discovered you on social media, Chris. So welcome to the pod.
Yeah, I owe my entire podcasting career to you, Rob.
It's all right. Checks in the mail. Um, so, guys, I just want to launch right in because a lot's going on, and I think it's we need to talk about the Gotham Awards. They just came out, the nominations. Look, my question really to you, Chris, first of all, is: do the Gothams really matter? Why do we care?
Yes and no. In terms of their voting process, uh, not really, because it's dependent on a bunch of juries by and groups of like no more than 5 people. That said, I prefer that method of voting more because like you do get a lot of these like inspired independent films. Well, most of them independent, but like ever since they lifted their budget caps. But yeah, you get a lot of these inspired picks that most of them won't find their way to the Oscars. People like Kelly Reichardt's film Mastermind, um, Sorry Baby, or like Preparation for the Next Life, which is a film by playwright Martina Mayak. And it's good that those films can get that kind of recognition, and it's a refreshing launching pad, at least for our first official film awards for the rest of the winter season. But yeah, ever since they again lifted their budget caps and made room for more studio films like Barbie for Ryan Gosling. Now the headline, of course, is now One Battle After Another. Like leads sets a new record for the nominations with 6, and yeah. While I wish they would recognize more indie films since they are called the Gotham Independent Film Awards. I think the fact that this movie can get 6 nominations over in jury categories just proves how much of a juggernaut it's going to be for the rest of the season. And I think
Yeah.
we're have to get used to that headline, One Battle After Another, leading award nominations for the rest
It's
of
a really
this.
good point. Yeah, that is a really good point. So these are films nominated in Best Feature, Tony, before I come to you. And so Begonia, East of Wall, Familiar Touch, Hamnet, If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You. I love that title. Lurker, One Battle After Another, Sorry Baby, The Testament of Anne Lee, and Train Dreams. To me, it looks like certain films like Mighty Supreme kind of underperformed. Apparently, it didn't screen for the Gothams, which is probably why it's not there. And if you look across the whole gamut, Hamnet underperformed a little. Chloe Zhao's not there. Begonia underperformed a little as well. And so did Sentimental Value. We they have supporting nominations for Stellan Skarsgård and Inga, but not for anybody else. So that is interesting. Although, if you look at the last few years of the Gotham Awards, Tony, like you'll notice that there's not really that much overlap. And I don't really think we need to necessarily look at these as the bellwether and just look at it as what this group of people think are the best of the year. What are your thoughts?
Um, I tend to take the Gothams with a grain of salt because they are so early in the season. Not everything is screened. However, you know, as the resident, Chloe Zhao stan, I can praise the Gothams. They certainly have loved Chloe Zhao movies. Nomadland and The Writer both won Best Picture here, but there hasn't been a lot of overlap. I think the last couple of years, like last year, A Different Man won Best Picture. Honora was nominated, but that was the only other kind of overlap in the Oscars. So I tend to treat the Gothams as uh, an early an early sort of stopping point, but not a necessary stopping point. So it's kind of like, here's where we are right now. Yay, very nice. And off we go.
Yeah.
And but as a bellwether, no. It doesn't have
No.
the overlapping voting body to make it a true precursor.
Yeah, I feel like they're trying to be the new National Board of Review. You'll obviously recall any award nerd out there knows that growing up watching this stuff, the National Board of Review always tried to be out first and tried to be the bellwether. And sometimes it was, and I think that was mainly coincidental or because they could read the tea leaves. I feel like the group that now does that the most, or tries to, is the Critics' Choice. They really just want to be the Oscar bellwether. Instead of being the a body who nominates things because they think they're worthy as film critics. But that's a whole other conversation. Charles, what is your takeaways so far from the Gothams?
I mean, I just basically I'm seconding everything that has been said so far. I do like that this sort of thing exists because it gives a chance for things that don't get recognized to get recognized. This is one of the few bodies that actually recognize one of the finest performances of this century in Alfre Woodard's performance in the movie Clemency, which was woefully under recognized throughout. Even mainstream critics awards were recognizing it. Um, so I'm interested to see how much we don't usually see sweeps in this. So it'll be interesting to see, like, is there a split between director and picture? Maybe picture doesn't even go to one battle after another. You never know with, as Chris was saying, with this very very limited panel that judges that ends up choosing the winners. You never know, and so it's exciting, but overall, it's probably not going to make that much of a difference.
Yeah. Like it's sometimes what the early precursors do is put someone on the radar. And I can think of a good example for me last year was in Outstanding Supporting Performance, Yuri Borisov didn't win, but he was nominated. And there was talk about, Anora's going to be very popular with the Academy voters. I wonder if Yuri Borisov might make it through. And this was the first time we saw him in a list, and it started to give that theory some credibility. And I think sometimes that's what the Gothams achieve. Another example in the opposite would have been when Tony Collette won a few years ago for Hereditary. For me, that was like, okay, this is real, guys. This is happening. Finally, we're going to get a Scream Queen nominated, someone like Toni Collette. She's only ever been nominated for The Sixth Sense. She's one of the best actors of all time. She's going to finally make it through, and she didn't. But we thought it put her on the radar, and it probably did to some extent, but she just didn't make it through at the final stage of the Oscar season. So yeah, that's what I like about it. I think that's pretty cool. Um, any further comments about the Gotham before we move on? It's a good list. I like it. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, I really like their international film representation. No Other Choice did well. Just an Accident. Resurrection made international feature. I'm a huge fan of Begon's Long Day's Journey After Night. So it's a very inspired pick. I wish other awards would be this inspired, but we'll see.
Yeah. Anyone else? What about you guys? If you got anything particular that you want to raise? Not particularly. I will say that in the two acting categories, which are inclusive of both genders, so I think Lee Byung-hun from No Other Choice was nominated. I thought that was really inspired. Rose Byrne, I feel like finally, I think she's going to get that Oscar nomination. I hope for If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You. I think she really is such a wonderful actor and has been a little bit overlooked over the years. And Jennifer Lawrence making a bit of a comeback for Die, My Love. The reviews for her performance in that film have been really strong. Josh O'Connor in The Mastermind. That's a performance which I don't think will have any traction at the Oscars, I think. But I've heard a lot of very, very good things about his performance in that film. And then you've got, speaking of Rose Byrne, another Aussie, Jacob Elordi in Frankenstein. I always thought Jacob Elordi, guys, would have been one of the actors who would always lose out, like, because of the famous Tom O'Neill copyrighted slap the stud syndrome, which is generally speaking when you have very good looking male actors younger male actors, they generally tend to miss out due to envy or jealousy or whatever it may be. And after Jacob Elordi broke through on Euphoria, I always considered no matter how good his performances will ever be, he will always be overlooked. I wonder if that's no longer the case now that he's playing the monster and he is so uglied up. So I'm hoping that, that might help him to some extent. And of course, Tiana Taylor for One Battle After Another. I just feel like she's going to win every single thing that comes out between now and Oscar night. That's where I'm at.
And
Okay.
I feel like we should also just it's worth mentioning that we have in one category we have a father and son against each other, the Skarsgårds.
Oh, we do too. That's cool. Okay. I
Yep.
love that. That's inspired. If I had to choose between those two, wow, that's a really tough one. I think the Skarsgård family are just incredible. Like, how many of them are there, by the way? Like, they just keep coming out of the Swedish woodwork. What's happening? What's
They're
going
like
on? Who are
parasites, it's
they are total parasites. I also wanted to mention that Chase Infinity is nominated in the Breakthrough Performer category for One Battle After Another, which is really cool. And yeah, so it's nice when you wake up of a morning and you get a list of nominations for something that you get to pass and read and try to understand. It's cool. No problem with that at all. Bring on the next one. Now let's move on because over the last few days, anyone on film Twitter or social media generally would have noticed that there's been a few films that have been previewed for a select few influencers and bloggers and people like that, that's what happens every year. So that's how it works. And the reactions or the feedback for Song Sung Blue, particularly Kate Hudson's performance, and especially Wicked for Good, have been rapturous and just completely over the top positive. And a lot of people are wondering whether that is manufactured and part of the quid pro quo that happens between press and PR representatives and studios, or whether it's genuine. I tend to think that a lot of that is genuine. A lot of these bloggers and film influencers genuinely love cinema and love film, and they get really excited about stuff like that. I know I do. I get really, really caught up in the films that I love. I know you guys do as well. And we love to advocate for that stuff. And so I have no issue with this whatsoever. But there's been some implication or perhaps maybe some things said about these reviews about whether they may be slightly disingenuous. I'm just wondering if anyone has an opinion on what we're reading right now on social media and whether that is all part of the strategy to get these films out there with the most positive feedback as possible. What do you think, Tony?
I think two things can be true at the same time. I think that people can feel very passionately based on something that they've seen and love it. However, I also think people need to calm the fuck down. I think people need to stop acting like, because so much of some of the things that we see they seem to be, maybe the emotion behind them is genuine, but the words that are written down seem like such a desperate attempt to get the name of the person who wrote it on the poster. I miss the days of like, let's wait until a film comes out. Let's wait until the actual like legit press screens. Just the fact that you use the word influencer made me want to vomit. Because there's no word in the English
Did it on
language I hate.
purpose.
Yes. Between influencer and content creator, I have a bucket underneath the desk. But look, I am cynical enough to certainly question some of the things that I've seen. I'm not going to mention any names, but I do think that there needs to be a serious pullback and have some professionalism. Evaluate the quality of the film instead of trying to make it your personal duty to anoint the next Oscar nominee, which 9 times out of 10 doesn't even happen anyway.
Yeah.
Thank you
Yeah,
for
I
coming
think
to
that's
my
actually a
TED
really
Talk.
good point. I like that. Charles, what do you think?
You know, you never really know with some of these things. I remember when the first reviews were coming out of Don't Look Up, and they were immensely positive. And when more people saw it, it was more like, okay, we like the message, but stop hitting us over the head with it, and which is what Adam McKay does very well. Um, so I think that, I think there needs to be a bit more of a measured response to things. I'm very skeptical about hearing good things about about the second Wicked movie, because as someone, and I come from this as someone who was not a fan of the show. Um, but I actually did like part one. My issues are always with act two of that show, not act one. Act one is fantastic on its own. Act two is where everything just goes no. And so, I mean, we've had that with Marty Supreme also. So you got to take it with a grain of salt. And yeah, with especially with Twitter reactions, people are trying, because that's what they're paid to do. They're paid to get the biggest reaction possible and to get the most engagement. So you gotta go big with it. And I understand it on that level, but on another level, I second Tony absolute vehemently with calm the fuck down.
Yeah. And Chris, before I ask your opinion, I just want to reiterate that this is not a bitter old ladies bitching about not having the same access as certain people.
It
That is
is for
not
me.
okay, apart from Charles. And definitely the bitter old lady part. That is 100% you, right? But
Hmm.
because I'm all for it. Go for gold. That's what you do. And I really do want to hear from some of these well-known, respected bloggers and film critics. I actually really care about what they think. It interests me. But and also any of the films that I have seen to date that are embargoed, I haven't really discussed that much. But I would love to. I'm definitely a person who loves to advocate for films, like which we're about to do about a film once we finish this discussion. But Chris, what are your thoughts as well? Do you look at these posts and look at them through a lens where you're a bit skeptical as well?
I mean, anyone with eyes can can also look at these with when you read the same specific words in the same writing styles from certain award pundits. I'm going to do this a lot, so anyone who's watching the finger quotes. But while there is nothing wrong with, advocating for those kinds of films, and of course, studios and campaigners know who to market to, which festival to go to, which reaction should be put out first to bolster the commercial prospects of the movie. That's all part of all that's all generated exactly for that purpose. But I can't help but find it slightly hilarious that, like, all of a sudden those same kinds of people are Andrea Riseboroughing the living daylights of all these of these films, particularly Song Sung Blue, just based on a bunch of hyperbolic hearsay generated exactly for that purpose, and change immediately and impulsively and maybe prematurely change their award predictions for that, only to have their expectations tempered when they actually see the movie. So it's the kind of thing, it happens every year. It's something that, it's part of the whole situation. But like, I'm a guy that likes to look for the nuance in these situations. And when you have all these people like putting those words in the same format, it takes away from that nuance and the analysis, and therefore the perspective and how you people perceive those kinds of statements.
Yeah, I think that is a fair enough comment to make. Let's move on. So last week, A House of Dynamite dropped on Netflix, and obviously in the lead up to a film like that, directed by Oscar winner Catherine Bigelow, with such an incredible cast, you would expect it to be in the conversation for awards. And there was some talk prior to its release that it's a very polarizing film, and many of us did not know why until we saw it. If you haven't seen it yet and you have nothing, you know nothing about it, I would suggest you skip this part of the podcast because we're going to go deep. So I saw it, I loved it, and so some of us have already discussed this in our own group chats and so forth, and I know where some of you stand. I just want to say that, and by the way, I loved it so much that I was compelled to write an article about it. I really welcome any of you watching to give it a read and let me know what you think. I think the whole point here is that this is not called Chicago Explodes. This is called A House of Dynamite. This is about the lead up to what might have happened. And this is not about what country did it and what happens afterwards and what does the president decide to do. That's not the point. That's how I see the film. I loved every single moment. I was literally, and I'm not saying literally like a 13-year-old girl would say it. I'm saying literally, I was on the edge of my couch, like this, staring at the screen with my heart pounding, wondering what on earth is going to happen next. And I was so invested in the story. I loved the way it was shot. I love Volker Bertelmann's Conclave 2 score, and I'm being facetious. He's my favorite composer. I love the score for the film. Rebecca Ferguson, Idris Elba, Gabriel Basso, fantastic performances, really good performances. And it's just a great movie. And I don't care that you don't see the bomb hit Chicago. I don't care about that. What I care about is being a fly on the wall in the halls of power and seeing what might have happened, as far-fetched as it could be, what might have happened if this was actually happening to the most powerful superpower on Earth. So I know where Tony stands, so I'm going to go to you first. Tony, what are your thoughts on A House of Dynamite?
I absolutely loved it. And this is a film that on its surface should not be as good as it is, because what it really is exactly what you said. It's the same event, the same series of events seen from different perspectives, seen from different viewpoints. And yet, Catherine Bigelow, as good as any filmmaker I can think of, that can take these seemingly, what are literally just conversations, and turn it into a thriller that is as suspenseful and emotional and engrossing as any kind of giant set piece. I think a couple of things that popped into my mind is that if we're really talking about an Oscar for casting, this is a film that deserves to be in that mix, because every single role is perfect. Rebecca Ferguson, you mentioned Rebecca Ferguson. Tracy Letts has a monologue that is going to be one of the monologues of the year.
And
He
MVP
does
there?
it. Well, but funny thing, the more more distance I've had from the films and seeing it, the more the MVP to me was Gabriel Basso, as that kind of beleaguered deputy secretary of defense, or deputy national security advisor. I forget what his exact title was.
He was deputy NSA.
Yeah, and he goes through such a journey in he's kind of this disembodied voice for at least the first two sections of the movie, and then we actually see his perspective, and he's so great at walking this tightrope between I have to be a professional and I have to step up to the plate, but oh my God, you know, I thought he was fantastic. I think um, Jared Harris broke my heart.
Yeah.
And I won't spoil anything, but boy, did I not see that coming. I went into this movie so blind that I did not know that what happens with Jared Harris's character was going to happen. And so I agree is that one of the things I love about this film is that you don't know how it ends. That you don't, because what makes this, I saw somebody else say this, so I'm stealing freely, but this is a thriller about what happens when competent people are put in an impossible situation. And it's all the more terrifying because of the complete lack of competence that we have. Nobody wants to imagine Pete Hegseth in the Jared Harris role. Nobody wants to imagine, you know, Mango Mussolini in the Idris Elba role. And send your letters, I don't care.
Yeah.
But I really do think that this film, and this film is getting praised from a lot. Yes, there are people that have strong opinions negatively about this film, and I actually do get it.
Yeah.
But I was noticing that when you have people as disparate as Kyle Smith from the Wall Street Journal, no no friend to liberalism, and yet on the opposite coast you have like Roger Ebert, RogerEbert.com, and David Rooney giving this film like huge plaudits. I think David Rooney gave it 100 on Metacritic. This is a film that's going to have some appeal. I do think that we've seen a lot of films that have had this kind of like, ooh, this is going to be a big Oscar thing, and they've underperformed. And I think it gives a perfect opportunity for a movie like this to sneak in if enough people get behind it.
Yeah. Charlie, I'm very curious to hear back from you because I know you were the person who told me very early on, this is a very polarizing film, be prepared.
Yeah, and it's one that has kind of grown on me a little bit since I saw it. I didn't dislike it when I saw it. I was actually it was so weird for a movie that is very polarizing. I was very in the middle on it, and I'm leaning positive, but um it's trying to do so much, but when you really accept the fact that it is trying to show how woefully not or just woefully unprepared we are to deal with the reality of the weapons that we have. Um,
Mm.
it's it's a frightening movie, and I think it was very interesting to do it in 3 parts, recounting the same things from different sets of perspectives, and it's kind of like as much as you want to see what happens at the end, you want to see what actually happens when the bomb goes off. That's not what this is about. And so at the same time, as much as I wanted to see that, I understood like, okay, you can't really go that far with this, or else it just loses everything that we've built up to at this point. For anybody who would like to see something about what it's like when a nuclear bomb hits, see the movie Threads, the British TV movie from 1984. It's on YouTube. That is, to call it bleak is an understatement. It's one of the most disturbing films I've ever seen. It is genuinely disturbing, and you can't believe that this aired on television in the UK in 1984. Interestingly enough, the guy who directed that movie went on to direct The Bodyguard. So, take with that what you
Oh, there
will.
you go.
But and I'm also someone who comes from this is a very personal thing for me, because since I live next door to DC, I have this very morbid mind, and I've actually gone on to websites where you can like put a detonation spot on Google Maps and see what the fallout would be and what the blast radius would be with different types of bombs. And so I've run those simulations, and I used to be in an area where survival was a possibility, but now I'm right next to the Pentagon, so I just know I'm going to be vaporized. So I'm actually cool with that.
You're gone. You're
Yeah,
gone.
I won't live to see the horrible freakish beings that end up in, which is not just the people from Arkansas escaping, but I I did enjoy it. I think, and I'm with you about Tracy Letts. I think Tracy Letts the best perform, and what was his name? Tony Gabriel
Gabriel
Basso.
Basso.
Yeah.
Gabriel Basso. I think those two were the best performances in there. I One thing that kind of actually that irked me was the conclusion of Jared Harris's character, because it feels like with something that drastic, it sort of happens, and you don't, and it's not even like given an amount of time or given the proper due as to how big a thing that is. It kind of just felt like sudden, and of course it's near the end of the movie, so it's like they're not gonna they don't really address it. It just sort of happens, and then another 5 minutes, and then it's over. Um, but I mean, all that is to say, I did find this an incredibly tense movie. Um, and I think it just shows that it's one of these things that just shows that as much as you can have preparations for different things, and Lord knows that our government has different preparations for so many different things. When it comes to the most serious, consequential decisions, we as a society and probably as a species are woefully inept, and it's something you just can't prepare for.
Yeah, it's terrifying. What about you, Chris? What are your thoughts on the House of Dynamite?
All I'll say is that it'll be interesting to see how it does during this award season, since the Academy doesn't really uh, usually nominate a lot of films of this delicate, touchy, and intense subject. Um, and very rarely do they like shower a controversial film with love, like the same as last year with Amelia piece of shit. I mean Amelia Perez. But speaking of Netflix, though, I know like there's a lot of contenders that like no one knows where each of those films are going to go with Jay Kelly, Frankenstein, House of Dynamite, Train Dreams. But I would assume that like in terms of priorities and like name recognition, the latter two is probably on the lower half of that. So I would hope that like those House of Dynamite and Train Dreams would hopefully since they are under the radar get more recognition and discussion such as these that will help the film do well with its appeal and its relevancy with the award season.
Yeah, there's one other thing I'll say about House of Dynamite. What Tony said about the casting award is something that I'm very much going to advocate for throughout the next few months, because if it gets 0 acting nominations, fine, because I think it's hard to pinpoint who has the strongest performance, who has the most material. Probably Tracy Letts, probably Jared Harris, maybe Idris Elba, but they're all so good, and it's that every actor is so perfectly cast. Like there's even the smaller roles. Like there's a actress who I really love, Amina Nieves, who was on 1923. She's a Native American actress, and she plays one of the soldiers who are calling out what's going on with the intercept bomb, with tears in her eyes, and it's that kind of little performance for me that really got me. And I just think this is all about the casting, and it's also all about Catherine Bigelow's really precise direction. So I think this film is fantastic, and I really want it to do well. But you say with Train Dreams, there has been some reaction from Train Dreams viewers, early viewers, over the last couple of days. It's been very positive as well. The cinematography has been called out. And Joel Edgerton, who has never been nominated for pretty much anything in the States that I'm aware of, another Aussie actor, but that's beside the point. He's apparently very good in Train Dreams. I've had Train Dreams in my Best Picture predictions for a few weeks now because I was hearing that it's actually very strong. It's probably Netflix's strongest contender, actually, either that or Frankenstein. So yeah, that's a good point as well, Chris, that Train Dreams could do quite well, and maybe once things start to settle out, Netflix might decide to pivot more to that as opposed to House of Dynamite. We'll see. But yeah, very interesting stuff going on right now, this very early on in the award season, and things are still congealing and falling into place. At this point in time, though, I still feel like, and I think you all agree, one battle after another is so far ahead of everybody else. Hamnet is a film that is tailor-made for the Oscars, but right now it seems to be all about the PTA, Paul Thomas Anderson film, and I'm down for that because I just thought that film was so amazing. Um, One other film that was nominated at the Gotham, not the Globes, the Gothams today was the Perfect Neighbor, the another Netflix film. This is a documentary. I also caught that last week, and I thought it was really really well done, very compelling, um, punchy. Didn't overstay its welcome. It's ended actually sooner than I thought it would, and all done through body cam and CCTV. And like, I just couldn't believe that. I just thought, how on earth? Firstly, I don't know. Haven't read about the film. I don't know how they put it all together. Whoever edited this, I wish I had your name. I'm really sorry, but and I'll look it up next time. Um, just incredible work. I think The Perfect Neighbor should be nominated for the editing category at the Oscars. I'm putting that down right now. I really, really believe that. Um, Tony, what were your thoughts on The Perfect Neighbor? Did you think it was a perfect documentary?
Um, I I do actually. I will admit that I didn't. I went into this kind of not knowing anything about this case, and I didn't know what the conceit of the film was. The only thing I had heard about the film was that it got a ton of nominations at the Critics' Choice Documentary Awards, and um, and so I was like, oh, okay, well, this must be pretty good. I did not know it was all going to be body cam footage. And when I started to realize that that's what it was going to be, I thought, how are they going to turn body camera footage into a coherent and compelling narrative? And I second exactly what you say. The editor's name is Viridiana Lieberman. She's
Amazing.
nominated at the Critics' Choice Award. Um, this is also nominated at Gotham for documentary feature. I do think that this could very well be a strong contender at the Oscars. Um, I was really stunned by it. I didn't realize where it was going to go. I was sitting on the edge of my seat. Uh, I was in tears during when the anguish of the middle portion of the movie when the murder actually happens, and to see this woman's children lose their mother in front of them is has to be probably the most heartbreaking scene of the year. If you don't have a heart, then I can't help you. But as a parent, it just hit me so hard that and especially that young kid, Israel, Izzy, as he's called in the film, who has this just the haunted look on his face that and the guilt that he takes with him. Um, and it's such a compelling, without ever getting preachy, it's a really compelling examination of these kind of stand your ground laws, of race relations, of you know there's also, I think, as heavy as this is, and it is a very heavy, a very tough film to watch at certain moments. There's also kind of this kind of strange, uplifting uh, effect that it has in terms of the sense of community that comes together of these really disparate people and the community that they share and the way that they rally around each other during this really terrible moment. I think it's exactly what a good documentary should be. This could have easily been a talking head documentary. This happened and this happened and this happened, but it's so compelling as a narrative that I really hope this gets more eyes on it. I do happen to know, as a high school teacher, that that apparently, according to my students, TikTok is all over this film.
Really?
Some of my students had actually heard. I was telling my students about it, and they heard about it on TikTok. So it is making the rounds on social media. So good on you. Yeah, but I think it's a stunning film.
What about you, Charles?
It's interesting. I have not watched it yet. My mom has watched it and she was raving about it. But it's interesting,
Well,
actually, to what you were saying, Tony. I know of this incident because of TikTok. I get a lot of police videos. That's because of my involvement with the sovereign citizen movement. I'm not driving. I'm traveling. Um, uh, watching them get pulled out of their car. I know I'm not supposed to be for police violence, but I make an exception for them. Uh, but yeah, I actually have seen a lot of the police footage for regarding this incident, and it is just on that on its own is immensely heartbreaking. What happens, and I really can't wait to see it. It kind of reminds me of what the way that it's formatted is reminding me of one of the nominees last year for documentary short. I believe it's called Incident. Which
Mhm.
takes the body cam footage from this police involved shooting in Chicago, and while you watch it, you find yourself going absolutely insane because you are watching at the same right after almost right after it happens, these cops constructing their own reality as to what happened, and it's infuriating to watch. Um, and so I'm very excited to see this and see how it portrays everything and see if there's maybe another aspect to it that I didn't get from seeing the footage on TikTok and having that new sort of perspective come into it. So I'm very excited for that.
Chris, any
I do
final
want to
thoughts?
just, I do want to just quickly add that one of the things that I did love about this film and I thought was really admirable was that it, as much as as the footage is about these people in this neighborhood and what this woman does, it's also about what good policing looks like, what good, competent, compassionate, friendly uh, policing uh, can be. It's not. It doesn't have to be a yes or no. It doesn't have to be a black and white situation. And I think that very easily could have fallen into a trope, and it doesn't. And I think that's to the film's credit that it does that.
Chris?
Yeah, despite my boyish, youthful, borderline Gen Z looks, I do not have TikTok, so
Okay.
I don't I have not seen the any footage from this documentary, but from the way it's being described, I'm very I'm very hopeful that this kind of film with like its original filming techniques can break in during this award season, especially in the documentary feature where it used to have a history of snubbing frontrunners. Um, and lately, with their last few winners, like Summer of Soul, 20 Days of Mariupol, No Other Land, they're starting to embrace more of like uh, really important subject matters combined with really original ways to tell that story. So I'm really excited.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I'm mindful of time. I know, Chris, you have to leave soon. I think we need to talk about the next Oscar category, off the next cab off the rank, so to speak. We did Best Supporting Actress last week. This week we're doing Best Director. Obviously, it's still very early in the race, but I'd love to hear all of your thoughts on the Best Director race. I'm sharing my screen right now. So Best Director at Gold Derby, you can all go to Gold Derby and make your predictions. This looks like the general consensus as to where this race is at. Um, I think those top five to me seem quite locked in at this point in time. And the only ones that I think could possibly break through, depending on what happens over the next few months, so weeks and months, is possibly Guillermo del Toro, if that film really takes off, possibly John M. Chu, if Wicked for Good is as good as these early reactions are suggesting that it is, and maybe James Cameron, if the third Avatar is just a complete and utter like blockbuster and people are just falling over themselves in love with it. Chris, you first. What are your thoughts on Best Director right now? Do you have any wise words for those of us who are still trying to work out what to predict?
This is very crowded, which I really enjoy. I I mean, this is a case where the nominees are going to be more interesting than the winner because I feel like the PTA narrative is just gonna stay solid, if not increase, for the rest of the season. But in terms of like everything building up to it, and particularly the Golden Globes and the BAFTAs, where they are more susceptible to international films. Um, I'm really, and this is my like biggest no guts, no glory for both director and picture. I'm really hoping that 3 international films can break these 2 categories. And I really specifically Park Chan Wook for No Other Choice, who when you hear stuff about this movie, of course, given his like directing style with his dissolves, transitions, and editing, and how he moves the camera, it's very technical heavy, and it very is something that would like perfectly serve this art house branch. Same with Marty Supreme, another one that I've heard is like very heavily edited. Um, and very well put together. So I would hope like those 2 can like give the other 5 a run for its money. Jafar Panahi, his speaking of narrative, he's gonna. I think he has enough of that to ride. He's really to ride that wave through. He's really campaigning, doing a lot of screenings, doing a lot of Q&As with Martin Scorsese and all that. And it's just gonna be very exciting. This is a very strong category, and to pick a 5 out of this is gonna be very hard.
Yeah, totally agreed. Charles, what are your thoughts so far?
Um, I'm kind of in agreement about the top 5, but I'm not currently predicting Ryan Coogler, and it's because from what I understand, he doesn't really want to play the game. So I mean, it's very possible that I mean it's still I wouldn't put it past him to get in, but if you have someone like Josh Safdie or Park Chan Wook who very vigorously campaigning that could actually make the difference in him in whether or not they get in or not. So I'm kind of on the fence about that, but I mean, Paul Thomas Anderson, Chloe Zhao, Joaquin Trier, and Jafar Panahi just seem like no-brainers to me. Especially Jafar Panahi. If anybody has a narrative that could compete with the overdue one that Paul Thomas Anderson has, it's Jafar Panahi, the man who has, everybody, every director would say they suffer for their art, but he has literally suffered for his art. And the fact that he's just like so chill and so cool when he just goes around, he just walks around with his sunglasses like he's fucking Jack Nicholson or something. That he could just be like that and command a room, which he does, and he does immensely well. Even we know that because of because of Bong Joon-ho, that having to go through a translator not going to be that much of a an obstacle if you know how to play the game. And I think Panahi's going to wow quite a few people with this.
What about you, Tony?
I completely agree with Charlie. I think Ryan Coogler might actually be uh, the most vulnerable. I'm actually surprised that he's at third. I think there's a danger because Sinners came out such a long time ago. There's a danger of a more late breaking passion pick possibly going in there. I could actually see the director of The Secret Agent getting in there. I could see Yorgos Lanthimos getting in there. I could see Del Toro. I think we're going to have to see because we've been told so many times leading into the season about what the big Oscar players are, and then they come out and then they tank, and then they don't go anywhere. So I think the safest ones are PTA and Chloe and Jafar. I think Joaquin is pretty safe. I think Ryan Coogler's the in the most vulnerable position, but it would not surprise me if the current top 5 is what ends up going all the way. But again, we're so early, we don't know what's going to get that passion, and there's still plenty of time. And let's face facts: the directing category of the Oscars loves to throw us curveballs. We can say going in, we know exactly what the 5 are going to be, and invariably there's going to be a curveball thrown that's going to make us go, "What the fuck?"
Exactly. And I look forward to those curveballs. I want to see
I
them.
love those.
Frankly, though, if the nominees were Paul Thomas Anderson, Chloe Zhao, Ryan Coogler, Joaquin Trier, and Jafar Panahi, I'd be very happy with that.
That would be
Personally,
that on its own is an amazing lineup.
wow, an incredible lineup, and I wouldn't put it past the directors branch to do that. They do love to celebrate, particularly auteurs and international filmmakers. Chris, do you need to head out, or are you good to stick with us for a few more minutes? Excellent. So this is really now going to be the highlight for me. This is what I want to talk about. Okay, if you know Tony Ruiz, if you know him well like I do, and these guys do, you know that he has a real love and passion for Hallmark Christmas movies. And I want to know
Borderline
why.
fetish.
It's borderline fetish, and that's okay, no judgment. We listen and we don't judge, Tony, and I want to know all about it. So over to you.
Okay, I'll make this brief.
No, don't.
There's been a this year Hallmark is only putting out 24 Christmas movies.
Only 24.
Some of you might be going, what do you mean only 24? Last year there were 47.
What?
So last year there were 47. They have done a real pullback in terms of quantity. So as of this recording, there have only been 3 that have aired. The first one, Christmas, A Royal Montana Christmas, was okay. It was a decent starting point. The second film, A Christmas Angel Match, was The Barf of Puke. Did I watch it? Of course I did. Did it make me smile? Yes. Is it a hot mess? Absolutely. But then we got this weekend's offering, Merry Christmas, Ted Cooper, starring 2 of Hallmark's most beloved stars, Robert Buckley and Kimberly Sustad. Those of you that are Hallmark fans will know those names. Sustad especially has been a mainstay on the network for over a decade. And the pairing of them together was absolutely inspired. This is a film that has the emotional depth of a paper plate, and yet it is by far, without hesitation, the funniest Hallmark Christmas movie I've ever seen. And
wow.
So the plot of the film is Robert Buckley plays a local TV weatherman named Ted Cooper, who is famous for always being positive. He is kind of like Ted Lasso on laughing gas. He is always happy. He is always wanting to look out for other people. He goes home and a series of pratfalls happen. He gets hit in the head with a box of Christmas lights. He takes a Christmas tree to the eye. He locks his keys in his car, gets arrested for breaking into his own car, but then within hours, every single cop is his best friend. It is so delightful and so funny. I laughed out loud more times than I probably should have. But it's one of the reasons why I love these movies is that you can go in. This is a Hallmark Christmas movie for people who think they don't like Hallmark Christmas movies. This is a good entry point. This is a good starting point for you. And so I had really high hopes when I saw the preview. Of course, I've been literally planning for these movies. I've got a whole app on my phone. I've got my letterbox of all the movies already set. I don't know if this is going to be the #1 of the year, but out of the 3 movies so far, it is wonderful. It is delightful. And if you're in a bad mood, and who isn't these days, take 82 minutes and watch this film. You will smile. It will melt your heart if you have an ice cold dead heart, like I usually do most of the time. And this is usually the only thing that can make me happy, and it did.
You don't need Class A drugs. You don't need booze. You just need Hallmark Christmas movies. And frankly, I'm down for that. I have 2 comments. Number 1 is I feel like it's kind of analogous to, in my household, when we get closer to Christmas, Netflix starts to put up that row of Christmas movies and we start to like, let's watch these in the lead up. I feel like that's probably what happens in our household. Also, in the lead up to Halloween, everybody has their favorite Halloween film. Like, we will probably watch the original Halloween with the amazing original Scream Queen, Jamie Lee Curtis. We always watch that, or maybe Hocus Pocus or The Witches. And yeah, so I get it. And the second thing is, it's like Hallmark has its own little industry, keeping so many creative people employed, and they pump out these movies that the audience really loves. They're not trying to be the next Oscar winning contender or Emmy contender. They just know what they're doing and they do it really well. Would you say that's pretty much what is going on here?
Yeah, and I think like any other genre, um, there's good, there's bad, and you know, I think when you have a slate of 47 movies as we did last year, you realize that some of them are going to be hot garbage. Many of them are just going to hit that sweet spot of happy, but happy, fluffy, kind of like whipped cream on hot cocoa. It's just there. But every once in a while, and I will say this completely unironically, there have been over the last, I'd say, 4 years, there has always been at least one Hallmark Christmas movie that I think deserves Emmy consideration for Best TV Movie. Because every once in a while, there is one that sneaks through and goes to a whole different level. And I don't know what that's going to be this year, but I look forward over the coming weeks. If I find one, I will let you know.
We want to know.
For the record, Merry Christmas, Pet Cooper is not what I would say is an Emmy-worthy film. It just made me deliriously happy. It just made me laugh and smile and chuckle. And
I mean, we need
things.
more of that. We need so much more of that. Everything is so miserable these days. It's good to hear. Charles, do you have any final thoughts on the Hallmark Christmas movie angle? I know this is not really your area.
I am woefully ill-informed about Hallmark movies and Christmas movies in particular, and I'm not going to shit on Tony's enjoyment of it.
That's it. It's as simple as that. Chris, are you in the same boat?
I'm glad y'all like it.
That's all you have to say.
What's funny is I could actually, I know all of you, my dear friends, I could probably go into my long list of Hallmark Christmas movies that are some of my favorites. And I have one that would probably fit each one of you. And I know it would be a different movie. That's going to be a mental project of mine over the next couple of weeks.
Yes. I think you should report back in a couple of weeks. I'm gonna ask you about that, and I want to see what you have to say. And we're all going to go away and watch them.
I already have one for Charlie. I already have.
Oh Christ!
Fantastic. And we're going to watch them and we can report back. I feel like we're being so inclusive. We're talking about all kinds of creativity across the spectrum, and I'm down for that. That sounds amazing. Look, it looks like we've run out of time. Thank you guys so much for joining me again today. Thank you all of you for watching/listening. Please stick with us. We're going to be back every week if we can. There's plenty of things going on the Substack, on social media. So stay with us because we have so much more to talk about as we get closer and closer and closer to the High Holy Night, which is, of course, Oscar night next year. Thanks again, and everybody stay safe and be